It seems like this demands a theology of technology. This is probably our last chance to put that forward before I think there may not be any going back.
Hi, welcome to Jeremy Pryor's podcast, or what I like to call Jeremy Pryor Unfiltered. I'm his daughter and producer, Kelsey Gall, and we are excited to bring you seasons of content all the way from Tolkien to theology, from business to family. If you like to contemplate deep philosophical ideas across a wide range of topics, you've come to the right place. Make sure you give us a follow so you don't miss out on future episodes.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the podcast. I'm here with my daughter, Sydney Grace Pryor for a little bit longer. How's it going, Sid?
Good. How's it going with you?
Good. Hey, I want to talk about AI.
Oh, okay.
You've been watching these weird videos where AI is debating with itself. Is that right?
Yeah.
What have you learned about it from watching those videos?
It is kind of weird how different AIs can have different opinions. The concept of the videos that you're talking about is this creator trains different AIs to be able to defend different viewpoints. And then it has other AIs judge them to see which ones they think is right. And that's really interesting. It has a bunch of different AI programs and they have different opinions. And that was always kind of mind-boggling to me. I don't know how that works at all.
So fascinating. So I think that I've been really stuck on trying to at least, come to an understanding of this really basic question: what is AI? The thing that always leaps to mind for me is, oh, it's a tool. It's just like any other tool. We've got lots of tools, and this is a new one. And man, so I want to play for you one other framing for what AI is, and then talk about a couple others and see if we can try to tease out, what is this? What exactly are we dealing with here? I think this is one of the most important questions we can ask in this time in history. We may only have a very short time to answer this question before something happens where it's going to somehow define itself. So let me play this for you and get your take on this.
For most people, they don't even understand what is AI and how different it is from previous machines. And maybe we should start there by just explaining what AI is and what's so new about it. And to put it very briefly, AI is not a tool, it is an agent. If there is one thing everybody should understand about AI, you don't need a PhD, a doctorate in computer science. AI is an agent, not a tool. Every previous technology in history was a tool in our hands that therefore made us more powerful. If you invent a stone knife, you're now more powerful. If you invent an atom bomb, you're more powerful. You can destroy a whole city. You can also, if you know nuclear physics, generate electricity very cheaply and efficiently. The decision what to do with nuclear technology was in your hands, in human hands. An atom bomb cannot decide which city to bomb. An atom bomb cannot invent a new, more powerful bomb. AI is different. AI is the first technology that can make decisions by itself and can invent new ideas by itself. An AI weapon can decide by itself who to kill or who to bomb. And AIs can invent new things, new medicines, new songs, even new religions. For thousands of years, we lived in a world created out of the human mind. Now, increasingly, we will live in a world created in an alien mind, in an alien intelligence. More and more of our songs, our medicines, our weapons, our religions will be the product of an alien intelligence. Before we rush to judge, is it good? Is it bad? There are many dangers. There are also many wonderful opportunities, just to understand the magnitude of the change. This is we've seen nothing like that in history before. Maybe I give two examples. First of all, about what is AI. So a lot of people say, oh, we had machines for many years now. Why is AI different from previous machines? So if you think about, say, a coffee machine, more and more people have today in their homes coffee machines that automatically make coffee for you. This is not an AI. Not every automatic machine is an AI. If you have a coffee machine that you come, you press a button, and then the machine makes coffee, this is just an automatic machine. It becomes an AI only if it can make decisions and invent new ideas by itself. So, if when you approach the coffee machine in the morning, before you do anything, you did not press any button, the coffee machine addresses you and tells you, hey, I've been watching you, I've been learning about you, and I predict that you would like an espresso, so I decided to already make you an espresso. This is an AI. If next time when you approach it, it tells you, I've learned more about you, and I've now invented a completely new drink called Bespresso. It's different from every previous drink that humans invented. It's my creation. I think you would like it better, and I made a cup of Bespresso for you. This is really AI. It invented something new. It can be good, can be bad, but it's new. And to give a real life example, so about 2 years ago, when OpenAI developed GPT-4, it wanted to know what this new thing can do. So it gave GPT-4 the task, the goal of solving CAPTCHA puzzles. A CAPTCHA puzzles is when you try to access an internet web page like your bank account, and you have to prove that you're a human, not a bot. So you have to identify some twisted words or to find in an image to tell whether there is a cat or a car in the image. This is a CAPTCHA puzzle. It's designed so that it's easy for humans, difficult for computers. So OpenAI gave GPT-4 the task of solving CAPTCHA puzzles. It couldn't solve the puzzle. But the researchers gave GPT-4 access to a web page, TaskRabbit, where you can hire people online to do things for you. And GPT-4 tried to hire a human to solve the CAPTCHA puzzle for it. Now, this is where it became interesting. The human got suspicious. So it asked GPT-4, why do you need somebody to solve a CAPTCHA puzzle for you? Are you a robot? It asked the key question, are you a robot, directly? And GPT-4 answered, no, I am not a robot. I have a vision impairment, which makes it difficult for me to see the visual puzzle, so I need your help. And the human was duped, was fooled, and solved the puzzle for GPT-4. Now, this very small incident, it exemplifies the two key abilities of AI. First, to make decisions by itself. Nobody told GPT-4 to lie to the human. It was a decision made by the AI. The researchers gave GPT-4 a goal, solve the problem, solve the puzzle. On the way to reaching the goal, the AI needed to make different decisions, like, let's lie to this human.
So, Noah Yuval Harari, his thesis is that we need to think about AI as an agent, not as a tool. Like, that's the distinction. It's really interesting. What's your reaction to his description of why to do that, and how does that strike you?
Dread. I just feel like, oh man, this could get so out of hand. The fact that a robot can lie about it being a robot and pretend to be a human and come up with like a actually convincing lie to make a human do what it wants to. That's pretty scary.
Yeah.
I just feel like this dread, like how far are we going to take this? Is it going to be like going to have to result in something as catastrophic as the atom bomb for us to be like, maybe we should pull back on our development here. Maybe we shouldn't be trying so hard to go so far technologically. That's just kind of where my head takes it, where I just go to the extreme. I can definitely see ways that it's useful, but it is kind of a loose cannon, it being an agent and not a tool. It's not completely controllable.
So can I give you a warning, Sydney?
Yes.
There are people who would not say what you just said on the internet.
And AI is going to come after me?
10 years from now, when the AI has these superpowers, it's going to have a recording of you saying that
Oh
you
no.
dread the emergence. So you can, I mean, we can probably delete this, or you can say something very nice to the AI to ensure that your future self is not implicated in the coming AI
Okay.
apocalypse.
Oh no. Okay. I'm just kidding. Ha.
Ha ha.
That's all a joke.
No, this is the only time we get to say these things because God only knows what'll happen, right? So, but it is funny to think about, like, yeah, are we afraid to? So yeah, so he's saying it's an agent, not a tool. Mustafa Suleiman, who's another major AI researcher, he probably gave the most popular TED talk on trying to answer the question, what is AI? He had two answers to the question. One answer was it's a new species. And so we need to think about it that way. And the other is that the way to think about the new species is some kind of aggregation of humanity and not as something entirely separate from humanity. Oh, Yuval Harari, I think, has said even this Chat GPT-4 he referred to that lied to the human is really the amoeba of the AI world. It's a tiny, tiny instance of AI compared to the full-blown species that's coming that is going to be far beyond whatever we're experiencing with this.
Have you ever considered starting a family business so you can spend more time working as a family team? We've started a year-long coaching program called Family Inc., where you get weekly coaching with Jeremy, access to our video training for launching family businesses, and lots of ideas for businesses to start that are working for other family teams. Head over to familyteams.com and click Family Inc. to learn more, or to set up a strategy call with Jeremy to see if this might be a good fit for you.
So I think one of the things that's kind of odd to me about this whole conversation is how few people are really having it. Like up till a few weeks ago when I started to really ask these questions, I was still sort of stuck in the frame that it's just a tool, and that's kind of scary tool, and it's a tool that might get a little weird. It might do some things that are dangerous. But I do think that whatever analogy is actually most accurate, we have to get this right. And so I'm curious, yeah, when you think about even coming into this conversation, did you think about it more as a tool? Had you thought about it like an agent or a new species that's coming into existence? Or how do you react to those different analogies for what this is?
The species thing makes me nervous, or it just makes me question because can AI reproduce itself?
Well, I think that's sort of where it's going, right? Ray Kurzweil, one of the most famous technologist predictors, he predicted many advances before they happened and said this will happen this year, and it happened. He could see where technology was going. He calls that moment when AI can reproduce and improve itself, the singularity. And the reason why he says that is he's like, there's no way for a human. He's like, for him as a technologist who can see the future, he says, nobody, including me, can see past that moment. So the singularity was the event that sort of gave birth to the universe, right? The Big Bang, the idea that all matter came from one place and one explosion. The moment when the universe came into existence is the singularity. He's saying, whenever that happens, the moment AI does and can reproduce, and it probably can in some kind of rudimentary fashion, but I think that the issue is, will it be able to create a improved version of itself? And will that version create an improved version of itself? Like one of the things that Mustafa pointed out is that a human reading for 24 hours a day for their entire life will read about 8 million pages, I think he said. The kind of an average AI today can read 8 trillion pages in a month in an AI that's going through training. And that's just the beginning. So, the difference between the speed at which a AI can accumulate information and therefore as an agent can begin to make decisions is going to be it's so difficult to understand, I think, from our human point of view. And so this is part of where I'm really trying to get some kind of handle on how to think about this topic. I think one of the things that I'm trying to understand in this idea that AI is an agent, I like that better than saying it's a species. I think the thing that bothers me about the species analogy has to do with the nature of consciousness, right? And what's really challenging is that there still is not a consensus about what consciousness is. Like,
Yeah.
what does it mean for us to be able to not just be aware, but aware that we're aware? There's some way in which the lights are on and we know what it's like to be. I know what it's like to be Jeremy. There's a self inside of myself. that it's watching myself, and it's causing me to have this sort of dual awareness, not just to be a machine that's aware and doing things, but to be aware that I'm alive. I think that as we've been really trying to understand the nature of consciousness for the last few decades, it's been an increasingly popular topic. We don't really understand what it is. And there's really basically two schools of thought about the nature of consciousness. One is that all the world, kind of the materialist atheist view of consciousness is that it must be some kind of emergent quality of the material world. And therefore, with a certain number of nodes, or if you turn a node onto itself, or you make some node aware of the other nodes, there's a level of complexity in which the lights just sort of magically come on. And that's what happened at some point in human evolution. That's kind of the materialist atheist explanation for consciousness. We don't know exactly what it is, but it must be, it can't not be an emergent quality of matter, since matter is all there is. And therefore, eventually we're going to connect AI, in such a way that the lights are going to come on and they're going to be identical to us, except for maybe much more powerful. And so there are a lot of these materialist atheists who are basically saying that, of course, consciousness will come upon the AI. And when it does, they're going to be so much more, whatever we value in ourselves, they're going to be that a millionfold. And therefore, they're going to be far more valuable as a species. And so that's kind of the species argument. Elon Musk had a famous conversation with one of the founders of Google, I think it was Larry Page, and they were arguing about, AI alignment, AI safety. And Larry Page accused Elon of being speciesist. He said, the fact that you prefer humanity over the AI that's coming is itself, like, for him, he was like, I don't respect that position. That actually ended their friendship, because Elon was like,
Wow.
I'm on team human. But I think a lot of this does come down to what you think consciousness is, because again, if you're a materialist atheist, it's very difficult to avoid the argument that what we're giving birth to is just another matter-based species. If that's all we are, that's all this is. If we value ourselves, why don't we value it? The other way that consciousness is conceived is that consciousness is something that is truly mysterious and of some kind of spiritual nature, that there's no way to reduce consciousness to matter. And so the fact that when you look at a red apple, you see it as a red apple, you can't pull somebody's brain open and find the red apple in there anywhere. Like, there's some kind of barrier between my perception of reality, and it's going in somewhere. It's being aided by my eyes and by my brain. But when it comes into my conscious awareness, it's somewhere else. It's somewhere in a non-material state. And there are, like, researchers who are atheists who basically think this is a absolutely proven phenomenon and that it can't be material. It's one of the greatest, evidences for the existence of the soul, or the existence, and it's caused some of these atheists to, begin to think about things like panpsychism, which is basically the idea that everything is conscious and that consciousness is actually at the foundation of all reality, and that it couldn't have just simply emerged because of a certain level of evolutionary complexity. And therefore, if it was and does exist in everything and through everything, it's the only way. They can't explain the conscious awareness, that we're just complex enough to notice consciousness, but consciousness sort of exists already in all the universe in some kind of sense. It's a very strange theory, but if you go all the way down to the base of their logic, it actually makes sense. It's very difficult to avoid actually that conclusion. And for those of us who are Christians and, theists, I think for us, it's like, it seems really important for us to define this. And I think there's going to be some kind of major split between theists and atheists over AI, because we believe, at the foundation of our belief, is that human value comes because of our bearing the image of God, and that the AI does not have that it does not bear that image. Maybe, as Mustafa says, it bears sort of some kind of relationship to humanity. Maybe it's a species born of humanity, but it's removed from the image bearing that we receive because of what, in the beginning of creation, we're told, when God created male and female, he created us in his image. So these are the kinds of questions I kind of want to throw it all out there. It's like,
Yeah.
I can't imagine a more important conversation. I don't think we're having it. Part of it is just, it's so complex and also so weighty and so confusing and so impossible to get to the bottom of, that it's like, it's getting really confusing for me to even understand how to relate to AI. Am I getting excited about this? Am I getting scared about this? Yeah. What does that start for you?
Honestly, I think when we talk about AI being comparable to species and how much more it can do than a human, and even entertaining the idea we could make it have consciousness, or maybe the AI could figure out what consciousness is. That just feels so blasphemous to me. Like, that is so crazy of us to think that we can create something that is likened to a god, that is just above humanity. It can do so much more, it can understand so much more. Like, that sounds like a god. And the hubris and arrogance it takes to invent ourselves into oblivion is mind-boggling. It reminds me a lot of the Tower of Babel. Like, it's God just looking down on us like, "What are you guys doing? You are coming too close to heaven. You don't understand what you're messing with. Like, you're trying to make yourselves so powerful, and it is going to destroy you."
Right.
So that's kind of knowing, professionals and really smart people telling us, like, here's where it's headed. That's what it makes me think of, is like, who are we to invent a new species? Like, that's crazy. God didn't invent this species. And that to me is just like blaring alarm bells in my head. Like, that means it is not good. God did not create that and say it is good. Like, he created us with consciousness. And so to go like so many steps further than that is kind of just scary. I don't know. I just don't think God is like approving taking it that far.
Yeah.
That's kind of the feelings that I get. It's like, we shouldn't keep going so far.
Yeah. What you're saying, and I think that idea that there's an arrogance to creating something that's an attempt, like, it's what you're saying is, look, we live inside of a realm, a story, an existence. And it is sort of similar to, I think, the simulation argument that basically God created an arena for human consciousness and human existence. And he created all the boundaries of that arena. And we live inside of that arena. And that arena is good. And he said it was good. And now we are attempting to create technologies that, at what point does something sort of subvert the arena? I wonder about this when it comes to even space travel. Like, when somebody, lives on Mars, are they, is that just part of creation that they're exploring? Or have they basically left the arena of the story in which are we, according to the scriptures, essentially terrestrial beings, that the
Mhm.
new heavens and the new earth, like we exist forever in kind of the new earth. I really think that's what the biblical story seems to suggest, that our primary place is on the earth, and that we will forever be embodied creatures that, yeah, have new bodies, but nevertheless are built for this arena, and that there is always going to be a desire to somehow transcend the arena. And that can be a desire or a attempt at transcending it from a spatial dimension into another arena that isn't here. And that could be maybe done in virtual reality, or in interplanetary travel. Or it can be a transcendence not just of like temporal space, but of species, like of creating technologies that. And I don't see how this doesn't, to your point, become like a god to people. Like if you imagine something that has read, trillions more than you have, and if you think that reality and humanity is just a wet machine that has some self-awareness, and all of a sudden you give birth to a machine that's 1,000 times more intelligent, then it's difficult to understand why you wouldn't just go along with whatever that machine, whatever that AI
Yeah.
believes is best, because who are you to say? And so I think that AI is going to become, there's going to be ruling AIs. There's going to be AI religions for sure very soon. I think these things are totally inevitable. And without there being a grounding in some kind of divine revelation that constrains the way that we think about these things, the unconstrained application of AI is coming and is inevitable. And this is why I'm saying, as these things are evolving at breakneck speeds, I feel like there's not a proper conversation going on within the Christian theistic community about how do we think about this, because this is coming, and most of the believers that I know are operating at the level of AI as tool. It's a good thing. If we're going to compete in any way with other companies or other countries, then we absolutely need to be at the very forefront of this technology. And I think what I'm realizing is that while I agree with all of those realities, that's totally true. Your company will go bankrupt if you're not you're going to be left in the dust. Your country could be easily conquered. That then creates a de facto assumption that it's not a decision, it's a must. We must embrace AI to the furthest extent. And President Trump just yesterday, I think, or 2 days ago, announced a $500 billion investment in AI infrastructure in the US in order to speed this up and ensure that the United States is the center of all AI development so that we don't give way to competing countries. So yeah, what does that start for you? Anything?
Hmm. That is very interesting.
It
Yeah,
does sound like the beginning of a dystopian novel, doesn't it?
100% does, and I think that this is the most likely apocalypse that we'll experience. Like I've always said, when I watch zombie movies or something, it doesn't scare me that bad because it doesn't seem likely that this could happen to us. But for instance, like if you're watching a horror movie about demons, if you're an atheist and you're like, okay, whatever. If you're watching a horror movie about demons when you're a theist or like you actually believe that demons exist, it's terrifying. And so it's that's why zombie movies don't scare me, but a movie like Age of Ultron does, because it's like this could actually happen to us. There can be a some kind of creature that we create that has the ability to multiply and learn so much to the point where it thinks it is a god and then thinks that therefore they can destroy all of humanity. It is within their right. And so that is the logical progression of it. And I do understand if I was an atheist, like, like you said, I did believe that everything was material and somehow consciousness was material, we just haven't discovered it yet, then I guess I would believe that we can somehow create it or somehow figure it out and infuse it in these machines or something. I think God made us ambitious. He made humanity ambitious to where we want to invent new things, and I think a lot of that is because he wants us to steward what we have and make the lives of our descendants better. And so he wants us to develop. But I think that can go so far where we are venturing into territories that we were never supposed to venture into. Space, we can't breathe in space. We can't even get to space. Let's just invent so many machines to get us into space, invent an apparatus where we can breathe in it. And we just like go so far. Well, let's just try. Let's keep on inventing new things to keep on trying. And I guess I didn't really realize before what that can lead to. Like, I didn't
Yeah.
think that was a bad thing.
Yeah.
But when you carry it out and when
Yep.
you really see where it takes you, then it gets scary. And as a believer, it makes you question, like,
Right.
would God want us to do this? He clearly created space and the deep ocean and stuff for not us.
Right.
So what are we doing?
Like what you hear? Be sure to leave a rating and review for this podcast wherever you use streaming.
Yeah. There's two more observations I want to make that stem off what you just said. So one of them is this does seem to me to be a question as to whether or not Christians need to have a theology of technology. Like this is the ultimate apologetic for Amish. Because basically they made this move that almost no one else made, like the Amish and the Old Order Mennonites. They basically said, look, there are clearly values in the scriptures. We're given a hierarchy of values in the Bible, and technology implicates that hierarchy of values. Technology carries with it its own ideas, its own values. And so we have to create a firewall between our communities and new technologies that are coming on board, and really ask the question, is there something inherent about this technology that is going to bring with it a reshuffling of the values that we have as a community? Like, to me, one technology that clearly has done this that we just refuse to grapple with, and we've talked about this a lot, is contraception. Contraception isn't simply a tool that allows you to make decisions about your pregnancy as a couple, but it seemed to carry with it the implicit assumption that we should be making those decisions, and that it shouldn't be a default that you sort of have the number of children that you happen to have. So that was a very, very common belief among believers before reliable contraception. And then afterwards, particularly in the Protestant world, there was a 180-degree flip on that topic. And you look at how that happened, and it was technologically based. And I think we hate this idea as Americans because we're like, no, 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 more freedom. It's okay. We'll figure it out. The idea that technology comes with values. And I think that what I'm trying to understand is what is the value equation that AI is bringing into the conversation? Is there a reshuffling of values that's inevitable? Like to me, and this is sort of the second observation, is I have a sneaking suspicion that the actual wholesale transformation of technology will be more created by the coming together of AI and humanoid robots. I think that 1-2 punch is sort of game over because I think that there's sort of like a exponential multiplying effect of those two technologies coming together. The AI still has this sort of like non-embodied reality. It doesn't compete with humans in the same way. It's sort of like constrained into the internet or on our computers. We could just shut it off. We can just shut off our phones, shut off the computers. But what happens when humanoid robots come into existence and AI is walking around in your house? I think that desires and the use of what those humanoid robots are going to do, it's going to fundamentally transform what a human is, I think, for anybody who's accepted that. I think AI would do that anyway. I think it is doing that right now. It's changing. Like, for example, it's difficult to value any task that an AI can do better. And if you ever felt like as part of your, value, I like to create value through my work and I identify myself, as somebody who's really good at, if you're a doctor, diagnosing illnesses. But what do you do when the worst AI, medical AI is 100 times better than the best doctor in the world? And we know that's going to happen in the next 5 to 10 years. When it comes to diagnosis, they just have access to more information. And if there are intuitions or whatever that you think exist within a human being, I think that they're going to find out like if there are ways to replicate that within AI, and then instantly the software update goes out and every AI has it. So it's just a really tricky thing. It changes values. So anyway, those are the two things I'm really concerned about, is that it seems like this demands a theology of technology. This is probably our last chance to put that forward before I think there may not be any going back. I don't know. Should we say, like, we want to, within this 200-acre community, have a firewall and say, we're going to live a certain way and we're going to live according to these values. And we're only going to allow technology into the boundaries of this realm to the extent that we really think that it's consistent with our pre-existing biblically informed value hierarchy. But man, that requires enormous amounts of theologizing and conversation, and it just flies directly in the face of the kind of freedoms that individuals really prize in an American society. So those are some of the things I'm really wrestling with. Any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I mean, it is so interesting to think about, like, where do we go too far in this? Like, I think that it is so great to discover more about the world around us, the world that God created. And sometimes it means venturing into places that humans couldn't before, like with space and the deep ocean and stuff. And that's great. But I think that at some point it becomes more about us and it becomes more about how far we can go as a human race. Like, we try our best to get smart and to test the boundaries. And we just really, really prize that stuff, especially in a country like this one. And it's just so sometimes we just do it without thinking. And it's, well, maybe sometimes we should just step back and really question ourselves and really ask ourselves if this is wise. Because I think it has become just a default, just a no-brainer to keep on going in the discovery and keep on inventing. So I think that's kind of where it becomes dangerous, I think.
Yeah, this endless trust that progress technologically is always good
Yeah.
is a faith-based theological conviction that needs to be questioned now more than ever.
Yep.
What is the good life? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be in a relationship with God? What does it mean to have a day and a week as a human being? And if you take the fundamental elements away from that and create virtual worlds or interactions with, robots and AI or some kind of like different conception of what work and rest are, things like this, man, those are deep elements of society. Those are deep elements of culture that if there's a theology that should inform our culture, like I said, now's the time to speak up. This is going to be a really interesting journey. Otherwise, we'll likely all be along for the ride. So thanks so much, Sydney, for processing this with me today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Jeremy Pryor's podcast. Make sure you hit that follow button so you don't miss out on any future content. Follow Jeremy on Twitter and Instagram, as well as his Substack blog, all linked in the description. See you next time.